Good evening, YouTube. It's Joe from Mega Newsreader. The video I'm making right now is in response to my call on the Alex Jones show today. Let me preface this with all due respect to Alex Jones and Michael Savage. I usually agree with Michael Savage on about 80% of the subject material on his show, and Alex Jones, same thing. I am usually 80 to 90% lockstep with Alex Jones. I wouldn't say that I agree with either of them across the board, nor do I worship them. However, as truth seekers and relatively independent radio news journalists who speak out against the New World Order, I think it is important to align myself with people who seek the truth. That being said, today I called in to Alex Jones, and I was fortunate enough to be the very first caller. Here's the call.
Let's go and talk to Zachary. No, Joe in California is first, then Zachary. Joe in California, you're on the air. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Alex. You're doing God's work, and I salute you.
Well, thank you, brother. Go ahead.
I want to talk to you about drones on two brief issues. One, there is a good use for drones. I say we fly one into the Bohemian Grove on the cremation of care and break up their little ceremony.
You know, we've actually talked about doing that. And believe me, the Secret Service would probably go completely wild on you about that. But hey, you're watching us. Aren't these the crooks that need to be washed? You make a really good point.
Well, the nice thing is it sends the footage back to your smartphone. So even if they took down the unmanned aerial device, we would still have the footage. And they can take one of us down, but if we send in those drones every single year...
Well, that's why they're saying, we'll protect you from the drones. We need state and federal laws, which then ban citizens having drones so only the establishment can. You know, it's like, we'll deal with congressional insider trading, and then they legalize it, claiming they criminalized it when it was already illegal. Go ahead.
They need to know there's nowhere they can hide. And the second issue I wanted to bring up just briefly, I know it's important that you have good relations with anybody, especially Michael Savage. He has a huge audience. However, I hope that you can respectfully hold his feet to the fire with his take on drones. Just last week, he mocked his audience for their mistrust of the Obama administration and Eric Holder. He supports the legal case for using drone strikes on Americans. He supports the official story of Anwar al-Awlaki. He never mentions the fact that Anwar al-Awlaki died at the Pentagon. He doesn't talk about the shoe bomber, the underpants bomber, the Fort Hood shooter. He calls his listeners knee-jerk neocons and nervous Nelly media conservatives because they question Eric Holder.
Well, let me just be clear. I didn't hear him say all that, but I'm getting him on about his book. And my issue is, he didn't say, hey, don't ask me tough questions. But when somebody asks, well, what do you want me on about? And then I'm honest with them what it's about. I'm not going to sneak attack somebody on my show. I'll ask him if he wants to take some phone calls. I mean, maybe you can call in then. But see, I can't just say, hey, you said this and that. I'm not saying you're lying, but it might be your interpretation as well. I just can't go off of what you say. But I'm going to get Savage on. All I know is Savage talked about Obama staging false flags, Obama's domestic army, Obama coming after the guns, the New World Order. Of all the big mainline talk show hosts out there, I mean, I think Savage is the best. I know this Savage doesn't work behind the scenes to try to shut my show down and cause it problems and mess with sponsors and things like someone else does. And so my whole issue is he's not an empty suit. And I work with WorldNet Daily. He works with them. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I'm not going to, it's not that I'm going to sit here and do a softball interview. I've got him coming on about the big threat, the New World Order, Obama, all this other stuff. And so, but send me emails. Send me the facts on what you're saying there. Because, you know, so much stuff that ends up getting said about Savage, you go look it up and it's not true. Or it's a forgery or it's twisted. I mean, you know. I had some guy walk up to me this weekend while I'm eating with my family at a restaurant and say he was a fan, but I could tell by the way he was looking at me. I was like, oh, every once in a while it happens. And he's like, how do I know you're not with the government or whatever? And I'm like, hey, man, believe whatever you want. It's a cop-out to sit there and ask, because it puts them on a moral high horse. Like, I'm questioning you with no proof. You know, if somebody's got the proof of something wrong I've done, bring it. Okay, I'm here fighting tyranny. It's obvious.
Okay, so that was the clip of me calling into Alex Jones. Now, before I go any farther, I want to play the clip of the Michael Savage show, and this was on February 5th, I believe. Hold on. This was February 5th, 2013, so this is 2 weeks ago. This is Michael Savage not only saying that his listeners were knee-jerk neocons and nervous Nelly media conservatives, but he went a little bit farther. So, here's Michael Savage.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's the story today, which is the Justice Department memo was leaked, and it reveals their legal case for drone strikes on Americans, and it set off a shockwave. Naturally, the knee-jerk neocons are against it. The nervous Nelly media conservatives have had to go out and buy boxes of the pens, saying that they're next to be struck in their radio studios by Holder and Obama. But maybe you should remember that even a stopped watch is correct twice a day. And in this case, Obama is right. But it's definitely a good thing to strike the enemy before they strike us. It's the first rule of survival, moron. But, you know, I've read all of the pros and cons on this, and I'd like to open it up to you on the Savage Nation, because I realize that this is a departure in many ways from what you would expect me to say. I should sit here like a knee-jerk neocon jerk on the radio or a nervous Nelly media conservative and say, oh, Obama's a murderer, Holder's a killer. I should say absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, I mean, I agree with this. Do you agree with it or not? Do you agree with Obama in stating that he has the right to kill a U.S. citizen who is a senior operational leader of al-Qaeda or an associated force of al-Qaeda without violating the Constitution? You agree with it or not? The phone number is 855-407-282. Well, I agree with it. And I don't understand why you wouldn't. I don't understand it. I know many of you have already drawn conclusions on it. If an American citizen takes up arms in support of al-Qaeda or any other organization with an intent to kill me or you or any other Americans that they can find, this is not a political assassination. This is a defensive operation. Because as you well know, al-Qaeda operates like a nation without a discernible border. Fundamentally, it's a nation built around a false religious belief. And the fact of the matter is, unless you come to understand we're at war, you have to open your eyes to what is going on here. I understand the legal framework has been pushed. I understand that many of you are nervous Nellies because you've been panicked today by Clarabelle and his clowns. I understand that. What is wrong with you people? How in the world can you disagree with everything Obama does until you finally look yourself in the mirror and say, I've gone crazy? Whatever Obama does is bad. Obama, bad. He's evil. He's evil. Well, I don't like 95% of the things he's done. But in this case, I agree with him. I believe that there may not be a legal case for drone strikes on Americans. I think that is a stretch. But I'm all for killing them. How's that? Does that work for you? I'd rather see them wiped out than another city wiped out. How does that work for you? Now, I know what I'm going to hear. I'm going to hear that it's incrementalism. I'm going to hear that today we're for it. Tomorrow the justification will be stretched from the right to conduct a lethal operation outside the U.S. against the U.S. citizen to inside the United States against the U.S. citizen who is not only not a senior operational leader of al-Qaeda, but let us say the leader of a Tea Party. That's ridiculous. That is not going to happen. Why must we disagree? And I mean vehemently and stupidly disagree with every policy decision of this administration. Do you not understand it makes you into a moron? It makes you into a knee-jerk. Remember, we used to have a phrase, knee-jerk liberal. We laughed about it even in the 60s, knee-jerk liberal. He or she is a knee-jerk liberal. Well, now we have knee-jerk, I wouldn't even call them conservatives. I'd say knee-jerk Republicans because that's what you have here. And now I know that I was right. I'm always right. When I'm wrong, I tell you I'm wrong. I'm right today, too. I'm telling you that we are at war. And if you don't want to accept it, that's your problem. I'm all for it. This memo that Obama and Holder released or leaked refers to enemy combatants. Enemy combatants who will destroy the United States of America. So if you are in favor of an Islamist picking up an improvised explosive device an IED and planting it on the New York State Thruway because they learned how to do it in their home country of Pakistan or some other country over there, well, then you are an idiot. You're a complete moron. Where were all of these nervous Nelly media faux conservatives when I was banned in Britain? Nowhere. So stop falling for this knee-jerk neocon anti-Obama rhetoric. There's a limit to it, and it's boring. Why don't you try to open your mind and use common sense? We all have a right of self-defense, right? We have a right of self-defense. If someone is going to go over and train with Al-Qaeda and become one of their operatives, I say launch, launch, and launch. The ACLU says, oh, we've launched 300 drones so far. I think that's the number. I don't think I remember. And 3,000 people have been killed. Well, that's interesting. We haven't had a 9/11 since the drones started flying. You ever thought about it? Let's put two and two together. Let's see. Drones started flying. Al-Awlaki was killed recently. His son, 16 years old, was sent to Allah, to the virgins. They were waiting for him, too. He disappeared off the planet. He was atomized. The 16-year-old spawn of Al-Awlaki was found in Yemen, and they took him out in the entire village. Terrible thing, really a terrible thing. We should have waited for him to blow up the IRT and then given him a nice trial in New York where he could have made a mockery of our system. So, you know, which way do you want it? I mean, which way do you want this? I'll take your calls. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then don't call. What I'm talking about is a shocking memo that was released today to much criticism, by the way, on both sides of the aisle, or all sides. Everyone's saying, oh, he's a madman, he's a killer, absolute power corrupts, absolutely, blah, 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 blah. And the thing is that I agree with him. It's that simple. It's not any citizen. It's an American citizen abroad. I'll read you the law again so you don't start going off and foaming at the mouth because you listen to Clarabelle and his clowns today. It would be lawful, it says, for the United States to conduct a lethal operation outside the United States, Schmendrick, against a U.S. citizen who was a senior operational leader of Al-Qaeda or an associated force of Al-Qaeda without violating the Constitution or the federal statutes discussed in this white paper on the following conditions. And the reason this white paper was released is because the new CIA, the appointee to the nominee to run the CIA, was in charge of the drone project, which is a plus for him. He sounds like a hippie with an earring, but at the end of the day, it's a fake. It's a good feign. He's a real killer, a murderer. That's what we need. 855-400-7282. It's the Savage Nation. I'll be right back to take your calls.
Now, I understand Alex Jones is having Michael Savage on tomorrow. I understand it's important not to alienate Michael Savage. He has a large audience. However, it is also important never to compromise with respect to our sovereignty and our independence.
I got something that tells me what it's all about.
See, I'd rather get to know Michael Savage and then try to influence him that way than just get him on here and try to act like I've got a bigger, you know what, than he does. See, I'm not in competition with people. I told him that on the phone. He didn't really bring that subject up, but it came up one way. And, I mean, I want this country back. I want this world back. I don't want to give in to total tyranny. I mean, this is life and death for me because I know the score. This is not about who's number one or who's on the most stations. If I wanted to do that, folks, I would have taken the deal and been the next Glenn Beck. TV deals, the books, all of it. I was offered the exact same thing, and 2 years later, Glenn Beck came along. And that's how it works. These radio executives go out and find people that they think can do certain things, and then they create shows and then program them. And I was told the same thing 4 different times by different high-level executives, different companies, the same story. How you don't have to worry. We will show you how to be number one, and this is what we're going to do. And that just does not interest me. Changing history for the better interests me. Standing up against evil, not having this nightmare New World Order takeover. I mean, if most people working for the system, most of them aren't bad. They're just sellouts, ladder climbers. What they don't know is that ladder that goes into the clouds, that cloud isn't water vapor, it's nerve gas. They think they're climbing up to the magic, castle with the gold, and they're not. They're climbing up a globalist ladder into a very bad place. See, I don't want to go up that ladder. I want to get out of this system. I want to change things. And I know history. I know I can do it with your help. I know you have power. And if you knew what I knew, I mean, if you knew I'm not just making all this up, if you'd go research what I'm saying, and a lot of you have done that, you'd understand, of course he's not selling out. He knows history. I mean, if these globalists weren't absolutely pure evil, I probably would have compromised in more ways just to get into the power structure with the old thing of work from within. Something this bad, you cannot compromise with it. I'm trying to explain this to people. There's no pragmatic way out of this, okay? You've got to have a clean break with these people and really get what's happening. And all of us just have to start saying no in different ways. And you can see us turning the momentum. That's why the system's accelerating the takeover right now. I know we got loaded phones. Mike Adams is coming in about 15 minutes. We'll go to Brian and Zachary and Brendan and Tim and everybody when we come back. So I'm going to break. It's too late to go to calls right now. It's just that caller asked those questions, and then I'm thinking, well, what kind of questions should I ask Savage? Because, see, it wasn't even in my mind that, oh, I'm going to do a softball interview. I never even thought like that. I'm like a hunting dog. I'm on my trail, and that's what I'm doing. I was thinking, how do I, get Michael Savage to come on regularly to talk about things that he thinks are important, because it will add a richness to the broadcast and bring in Michael Savage listeners, and then my listeners will go over to Michael Savage. And then we will change Michael Savage, I believe, in the long run. But reality will change people. But that's not even the overall goal. The overall goal is to talk about issues and get his perspective about how China has become our owner by the globalist traders manipulating us into that position. See, I'm worried about the big threat on the planet. I'm not worried about, showing someone up because I'm the big man.
Okay. So in closing, Alex Jones, I am not implying or saying that you should ambush Michael Savage on your show tomorrow. I am not saying that you should try to prove, or that you think that your proverbial, is bigger than Michael Savage's. I'm not saying that you're in competition with him. I just thought that you might want to know his take on unmanned aerial drones. It's been the crux of your entire show today, and my hope is that you will at least give him some serious questions and not just let him promote his book. So in closing, you're both smarter than I am. You both have forgotten more than I will ever learn. I humble myself before Michael Savage and Alex Jones, and please don't take this video as a confrontational piece. Just take this as an informational piece. I have given you all of the audio quotes. Granted, it's not one big chunk. There were edits in there because, in the interest of time, I didn't want my video to run, an hour long. Michael Savage, I respect you. I don't always agree with you, just like I don't always agree with Alex Jones. I know that you'll have a good time on his show tomorrow. He's a wonderful host. And for what it's worth, I really do enjoy your radio. I think you're an enlightening, thought-provoking radio host. I've got to give the edge to Alex Jones, though. I think Alex Jones really pushes the envelope, and it is thanks to Alex Jones that I'm able to find the beauty in you.
A country of nervous Nellies. Whatever he does, everything Obama does is some kind of conspiracy. I mean, it's unbelievable. How crazy can you get? This reminds me of the Bush years. It's the same thing, or the Nixon years. This has become insane. I agree with Obama and Holder on this one. I read it. I read the whole, not just the, I read the paper. I read the entire 16 pages. It's in front of me. It's lawful for the United States to conduct a lethal operation outside the United States against a U.S. citizen who is a senior operational leader of al-Qaeda or an associate force of al-Qaeda without violating the Constitution. Period. End of story. This is the same thing that happened in World War II. Many German-American families returned to the fatherland. That was a call of the Nazi. Fought with the Germans against the Americans and the rest of the Allies. And when we caught them, we killed them. We shot them, lined them up against the lamppost and shot them. U.S. citizenship does not grant you blanket immunity. If you join the enemy, you're no longer a U.S. citizen in plain English. And I am telling you, I agree with Obama and Holder in their white paper. Period. End of story. And I know I'm right now. Well, what's the point of arguing with that? Why must everything Obama does be wrong? Oh, yes, I understand at night he's putting on camouflage. And with the protection of the Secret Service, he's running around Washington, D.C., with viruses on his fingers, and he's touching gas pumps in order to spread noroviruses. And Holder is doing the same thing all over the city. He's going to shop supermarkets in the middle of the night. And without gloves on his hands, he's spreading noroviruses on shopping carts. I mean, is that what you want to believe? I mean, that's what it's becoming. It's becoming hysterically insane. It's insane. I mean, it was like the age of the Bush bashing. I don't intend to go down with the idiots who are going down like the liberals went down during the Bush bashing days. I'm not going down with the ship. It doesn't mean I'm just going to do this in order for effect or to survive. I'm doing it because it makes common sense to me. I'm trying to use independent thinking and judgment here. I don't understand what you're afraid of with this. I mean, I could understand it, sure, if you want to stretch it like the ACLU did, you know, and say, oh, well, okay, yeah, he could kill you tomorrow. Justice Department memo reveals legal case for drone strikes on Americans. 16-page memo, copy which was obtained by new deals of illegal reasoning behind one of the Obama administration's most secretive and controversial policies, and blah, blah, blah. The September 2011 strike in Yemen that killed alleged al-Qaeda operatives Anwar al-Awlaki and Samir Khan. Both were U.S. citizens who had never been indicted by the U.S. government nor charged with any crimes. Boo, hoo, 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 hoo. Boo, hoo. Why don't you get a memorial to al-Awlaki, all of you liberals who are against this? Maybe the neocons can erect a monument to al-Awlaki. Poor American citizen was not given a trial. Boo, hoo, 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 hoo. But the white paper apparently introduces a more expansive definition of self-defense or imminent attack than described by Brennan or Holder. So that's what's getting the libs and the neocons, scared. They feel that they're going to be struck by a drone in the middle of the night, being going to be caught with their pants down. That's why they're getting the guns and the ammo. That's why they're buying the extra bullets in case the drone comes through the window. I see nothing wrong with it. I'm glad they killed him. I wish that they would do more of it, frankly. I'm in favor of drones. I think drones are wonderful. It's a great advancement in warfare.